Chapter 2. King and Horses. One day Turpin was riding towards Cambridge when he saw another traveller ahead of him on the road. He seemed like a rich man, and Turpin decided to rob him. He rode up to him and took out 2 pistols, pointed them at him and demanded his money. The other traveller was himself a highwayman, King, who recognized Turpin immediately. King laughed at Turpin's demand for money. "What?" he asked him. "Dog eat dog. I know who you are, Richard Turpin." Turpin smiled. He wanted to know what King was going to say next. "We should work together," King told him. "We could be partners. What do you think?" "All right," Turpin agreed. "Maybe a partnership isn't such a bad idea. Let's try it." The 2 men began a series of highway robberies, and they became known in and outside London for their exploits. On one occasion, they robbed a gentleman on the road and then allowed him to buy back the watch they had just taken. Turpin was also known to be a gentleman to the ladies he and King robbed, and if they were young and beautiful, he complimented them on their beauty when he took their possessions, saying, "It's a pity to take things from such beautiful ladies." King and Turpin made a hiding place for themselves in Epping Forest, where they could sleep and keep their horses. One day disaster struck for Turpin. A certain Mr. Thompson, who worked in Epping Forest, had seen the hiding place, and he guessed who the 2 mysterious men were. When he heard that the authorities were offering a reward of £100 for information about Turpin and King, he decided to arrest them. Mr. Thompson approached their hiding place with a friend. Turpin saw them coming and went out to meet them. He thought they were poachers. "There aren't any rabbits near here," he told them. "That's true," Mr. Thompson's friend replied, "but there's a Turpin." He pointed his gun at Turpin and told him to surrender. "Very well, gentlemen," Turpin replied in a friendly way. "There's no chance for me. I surrender." As he was talking, however, Turpin began to walk backwards very slowly. Then he quickly reached down, picked up his own gun and shot Mr. Thompson's friend. Mr. Thompson ran away into the forest. He told the authorities about the murder, and they issued a reward of £200 for the arrest of Richard Turpin. Turpin and King now decided to work separately. Turpin decided that Epping Forest was a dangerous place, and he left the area. He sent a message to his wife to meet him in a tavern. When he arrived at the tavern, he saw a butcher there. This man knew who he was, and he remembered that Dick Turpin owed him £5. "Now, Dick," he said, "I know you've got a lot of money these days. Give me the £5 you owe me." "My wife is in the next room," Turpin told the butcher. "She'll give you the money." The butcher now began telling the other people in the tavern who Dick Turpin was. He said that they should arrest him. Turpin escaped through a window and rode away. Turpin and King joined up again, and they took a 3rd partner into their business, a man called Potter. One day, riding towards London, Turpin's horse was tired, and when he saw another traveller on the road, he decided to take his horse. The owner of the horse was called Mr. Major, and the theft took place in Epping Forest near a tavern called the Green Man. Mr. Major immediately told the landlord of the Green Man about the theft of his horse. He also advertised for information about the thieves and his horse. The landlord of the Green Man soon received information that a horse very similar to the one that had been stolen could be found at the Red Lion Tavern in Whitechapel, London. The landlord of the Green Man went to the tavern and waited to see if someone arrived to collect the horse. When King's brother arrived at the tavern, he was immediately arrested. At first he said that the horse belonged to him, but it was soon proved that he was lying, as the whip he carried in his hand had the name Major written on it. The landlord then told King's brother that he would only be freed if he told them where his employers were. He said that a man was waiting for the horse in Red Lion Street. The landlord of the Green Man and his friends went there and saw the man that had been described to them. The man, who was Turpin's partner, King, saw the crowd of people coming towards him and took out his pistol. He tried to fire at the crowd, but his pistol did not work. He called out desperately to Turpin, "Fire, Dick, fire or they'll take us." Turpin fired his pistol, but the bullet hit King. "You've killed me, Dick," King cried out to him. Turpin rode away as fast as he could from the scene. King lived for a week after being shot by Turpin, and he gave the authorities information about where they might be able to find Turpin himself. Turpin knew now that the authorities were looking for him everywhere, and he rode from one place to another. First he went to the east, to Lincolnshire, where he stole some horses. He was caught and arrested but managed to escape. Next he went further north to Yorkshire, where he used another name. He pretended to be a gentleman and frequently went hunting with the upper classes. He supported himself by stealing horses in Lincolnshire and selling them in Yorkshire. Turpin then made a very small mistake that cost him his life. When he was out hunting with his friends one day, he shot a cockerel that belonged to his landlord. One of the huntsmen, Mr. Hall, told him that he had made a mistake to shoot the cockerel. "If you stay here," Turpin replied coldly, "I'll shoot you as well." Mr. Hall was very angry at Turpin's behavior. He told the landlord what Turpin had done, and the authorities arrested him. The magistrates began to collect information about this mysterious man who had appeared among them. They learned that he travelled frequently to Lincolnshire and always came back with money and horses. They began to suspect that he was a highwayman. Turpin insisted that his real name was Palmer and that he had been a butcher in Lincolnshire. He said that he had lost his business and had decided to come and live in Yorkshire. The magistrates made inquiries and discovered that there had been a butcher in Lincolnshire called Palmer. This man was a sheep thief who had escaped from the authorities there, who were looking for him. When he had been in prison in York Castle for about 4 months, Turpin wrote a letter to his brother in Essex. He signed the letter John Palmer. He asked his brother to help him, but his brother did not read the letter. He did not want to pay the postage for receiving it. The letter was then sent back to the post office in Essex. By chance, the schoolmaster in Essex who had taught Dick Turpin saw the letter in the post office. He recognized his old pupil's writing immediately. He took the letter to the magistrate and explained that the writer of the letter was not John Palmer, but Richard Turpin. Turpin was now tried and sentenced to death for his crimes. He behaved very cheerfully after receiving his sentence and joked about the execution ahead of him. He bought some fine clothes shortly before the day of the execution. He also paid 5 poor men to be his mourners and to follow the cart taking him to the execution. He behaved with great courage on the day of the execution, 10 April 1739. He waved at the crowd who had come to see him die, and he spoke for half an hour with the executioner before throwing himself down from the execution ladder. The career of the famous highwayman had come to an end at last.